What's going on, everybody, and welcome to my in-depth review of 28 Weeks Later, the 2007 sequel to 28 Days Later, directed by Juan Carlos Fresnadillo. Now, I'll be completely honest, when I first saw this movie years ago, I didn't really appreciate it. I always looked at it as that follow-up that just didn't quite measure up to the raw originality, emotional punch, and gritty atmosphere of the first film. It felt like it was trying to recapture lightning in a bottle but couldn't quite hold on to what made the original special. I had it mentally filed away as a decent sequel, but not essential. But after revisiting it recently, with a little distance from the first film and a more open mindset, I've got to say I was so wrong. This rewatch totally flipped my perspective. I didn't just like the movie, I loved it. It's intense, emotionally charged, and far more thematically rich and visually powerful than I gave it credit for. It's the kind of film that creeps up on you and stays in your head long after the credits roll. The story takes place 6 months after 28 Days Later, with the rage virus seemingly burned out and the infected dead from starvation. The U.S. military moves into a deserted London to establish District 1, a safe zone where civilians can begin rebuilding under strict supervision. Among the returnees are 2 kids, Tammy and Andy, reunited with their father, Don. But Don carries a heavy secret. He survived by abandoning his wife, Alice, during the outbreak. Though racked with guilt, he hides it and focuses on his children. The reunion seems peaceful until, of course, things go horribly wrong. This is a 28 movie after all. One of the biggest things I appreciate now is just how well this film handles its tone. It never tries to directly imitate 28 Days Later. Instead, it carves out its own identity. Where the first film was more of a slow burn, character-driven apocalypse drama, 28 Weeks Later leans heavily into full-on horror and suspense. It's darker, meaner, and more unforgiving. There's this undercurrent of helplessness that runs through the entire film, this feeling that no matter what anyone does, the outcome is going to be bleak. And that's what makes it so powerful. It's not afraid to make bold, gut-punch decisions. It doesn't care about convention. The people you think are safe, not safe. The heroes you root for, they don't all make it. There's no clean resolution. And that brutal honesty, that refusal to sugarcoat anything, is part of what makes the movie feel so raw and real. And speaking of raw, the opening scene is easily one of the best horror openings I've ever seen, full stop. It starts off deceptively quiet, just a group of survivors trying to hold on, living in a boarded-up farmhouse out in the countryside. You get this sliver of hope, like maybe they've found a way to survive. But then, everything goes wrong fast. Infected break in, chaos erupts, and Don makes the horrifying split-second choice to abandon his wife and run. That entire sequence is so well executed, from the way it's shot, to the frantic editing, to the music swelling with dread. It grabs you by the throat and doesn't let go. It's not just scary, it's emotionally devastating. It instantly defines Don's character and sets the stage for the moral fallout that comes later. And when he sees Alice again alive, but carrying the virus only to unwittingly become the next infected host, it plays out like a slow-motion nightmare. The scene where he kisses her, and you realize what's about to happen, is filled with unbearable tension. You know it's coming, but that pit in your stomach still hits hard when it does. What makes Don's transformation so horrifying isn't just the violence, it's what it represents. He becomes the very thing he once ran from. His guilt, his cowardice, it all culminates in this tragic moment of reckoning. And when he turns on his own children, it's not just a shocking twist, it's genuinely heartbreaking. I didn't feel the full weight of it when I first watched the film years ago, but now, that scene crushed me. It's tragic in the truest sense of the word. From a technical standpoint, the movie is also really impressive. The cinematography stands out, capturing the desolate beauty of post-outbreak London in a way that's both haunting and strangely peaceful. Through long, quiet shots, the film conveys a city that feels truly abandoned, empty, still, and slowly being reclaimed by nature. This atmosphere enhances the contrast between the so-called safe zone and the chaos that still lingers beyond its borders, making the divide feel both visually and emotionally stark. I also have to give a lot of credit to the score, which is phenomenal. It ramps up the tension at all the right moments and brings this epic, haunting quality to the more emotional scenes. The use of music during the military firebombing scene is chilling. It's not just action, It's a slow descent into horror and moral collapse. That whole sequence, where the army starts executing civilians to contain the outbreak, is absolutely terrifying. It blurs the line between control and cruelty, and it's one of the most disturbing depictions of a last resort scenario I've seen in a horror film. The pacing is another major win for this movie. Once things go south, it's relentless. The movie never gives you time to breathe, and yet it never feels rushed. Every scene builds on the tension of the last, and there's always this feeling that worse things are just around the corner. And they usually are. The script does a great job of balancing large-scale chaos with personal, intimate character moments, which helps the film maintain its emotional core even when everything's falling apart around it. Now, on to the negatives, and to be fair, these are mostly nitpicks, but the first one is the shaky cam in some of the more intense action scenes. I get that it's supposed to disorient you and put you in the moment, but it can be hard to follow at times. There are a few moments, especially when the infected are swarming, where the camera is just shaking too much to really process what's happening. It doesn't ruin the film, but it's definitely a flaw that stands out, especially on rewatch. On a similar note, some of the visual effects haven't aged particularly well. Occasional explosions or CG shots can look a bit rough now, but those are minor nitpicks in the grand scheme of things. All in all, I came away from this latest watch with a huge new appreciation for 28 Weeks Later. It's a brutal, emotionally grounded, and expertly crafted sequel that doesn't get nearly the love it deserves. It expands the world of the original in meaningful ways while carving out its own identity, and it never shies away from the darker truths of what a real apocalypse would look like. It's bleak, but purposeful. It's scary, but not mindless. And most importantly, it matters. I went in expecting a decent horror flick, and I walked away thinking, wow, that was phenomenal. Sometimes it takes a second watch to really see a film for what it is, and I'm so glad I gave this one another shot. 28 Weeks Later is a powerhouse of horror and emotional storytelling, and honestly, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. So, what do you guys think of this movie? Do you love it, think it's just okay, or maybe even dislike it? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to comment below. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. I really appreciate your support. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.